Here we have the kismet for the refinery level. At the beginning you can see when the level is loaded, we're streaming this set of kismet into the room, or into the level. It's built in another world so that it can all be modified and the builders can keep on building without being bothered with the kismet getting messed up. Here we have the door. When he comes up and uses it, we open the door. When he goes across, the door's shut. This is for the pawn that gets triggered here. This is the player gets to the other side of the bridge, or to the middle. We spawn a AI bot who runs across and sets off a trigger. And you see he runs to trigger 4 and sets off trigger 4. Once that's done, the bridge starts separating from the player. And when he falls off, he hits the trigger underneath the bridge, which plays a matinee of a guy falling. This is not the player, but a skeletal mesh that looks the same. We hide the player, unhide the skeletal mesh, turn cinematic mode on for a camera, and when it's all done, we unhide the player again. In the corner are checkpoints, so the player doesn't have to restart all the time. Over here we have the conveyor belts and the hammers that are going up and down, smashing the rocks. As you can see on the bottom, we have the hammers and the rocks on the right side, all being controlled by one big matinee. On the left side are events. Each one corresponds to a specific rock being actually hit by one of the hammers. These pass into an object change, which sets the target rock that we want to change, and a little delay, and setting it between 3 different states of brokenness. And then when they get to the end, they reset to being whole again so that they can loop back. Over here we have the buckets that are going on in the background. You can see there's only 2 matinees for this, even though there's a lot of buckets. These are object lists, because all the buckets move only a short distance to where the previous bucket was, or the next bucket is, and then they reset, creating the illusion that they keep going. The second matinee is because of the buckets that are going at a diagonal. Since the movement is different, they can't share the same data. Moving over to here, we have the sequence where the player gets into the elevator. When he touches the trigger, we toggle cinematic mode, unhide the skeletal mesh that we want to use, have him walk into the elevator, a bucket falls down, lava spills out, and the elevator starts going down with explosions going off all around the player. Once it gets to the bottom, we have another matinee of the skeletal mesh stumbling out, falling down, and getting up. Once he gets up, we unhide the player, teleport him over, and get rid of the skeletal mesh. And we're using the same position that the skeletal mesh was at for the location to teleport the player. So it looks like it was him the whole time. Moving on to the end the level. Here are volume triggers all around the bottom area that when the player touches them, it creates explosions. The volume triggers are also have physics volumes around them, like this one being moved by the matinee. These are to hurt the player. The matinee is so the player can move past certain areas that need to be blocked off later, so we have to move the physics volume up into place. That happens up here as well, which is the final door he goes through. Here's the physics volume that hurts the player if he tries to go back again. And over here is the ship that comes down